98, 99, 98, 99.
101, 102.
Good. Excellent. None of this 1-2-1-2 business.
No, we gotta go up 100.
That's right.
Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me, as always, is my fellow... Oh, he's not here. Where'd he go? He's back.
Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. I've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me, as always, is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to?
All sports is now over. People need to stop doing sports. There are
No more sports.
no more sports. We've covered them all.
Hey, there is one day in September.
No, that's sports. Can't be doing sports. It's too late.
I don't know. I'm assuming that it is in September this year.
Yes, it is.
The song has always said that it is one day in September, except for those times when it isn't.
Yeah.
And for those non-Australians who are listening, you shall remain none the wiser.
Yeah.
Some kind of Australian sports ball game thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Paralympics are over. Again, I saw less of it than I would have liked.
Uh-huh.
But I did see the closing ceremony, and it was... it was.
More of the same?
Yeah. Well, somewhat less of the same, to be
Okay.
honest. The closing ceremony of the Paralympics has historically been shorter and faster to get to the point, relatively speaking.
Right.
So we dealt with all of the protocol elements very quickly, and then held a little over an hour French electronic music festival.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and that was it.
Aren't Daft Punk French?
Yes.
They didn't reform
No.
just for the...
No, they said they wouldn't, and they didn't.
Oh. I mean, who would know anyway? Rumour has it that there were 47 Daft Punk pairs. It was like the Wiggles. So each country had their own set of Wiggles.
Meanwhile, I've been trying to pick back up work that I last worked on almost a year ago,
Uh-huh.
and that is otherwise not yet fit for public discussion or consumption.
Okay.
So,
Good.
yeah,
Watch this space
I guess.
or another space. Is there a space that people should be watching?
No, not yet.
Look to the skies.
What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I did the whole plasma thing yesterday and
Uh-huh.
the whole psychologist thing. And with the weather being how it was, I wasn't going to walk home, but my therapist said, it's beautiful and sunny out there. Walk home. And
Was it also windy?
no, actually it was a beautiful walk home. Absolutely wonderful. So I'm glad that my arm was twisted in that respect. Speaking of arms being twisted, I did have a bandage around my arm due to the plasma donation, and I did sign a form at the beginning of that saying that I did not intend doing anything strenuous for the next 24 hours. So we made some compromises. I walked slowly across the bridge and home for a walk that took a little under 2 hours. But I was not strenuous.
Yeah.
And then today I completely went out of my comfort zone and I have signed up for potentially being involved in a medical research
Right.
thing. And so sat through a 1 to 1.5 hour interview process and questionnaire and what have you. When I say 1 to 1.5 hours, the appointment was at 2 and I got out at 4:30. So we strayed. My brain was buzzed and not... being out of my comfort zone can go either of two ways. I can clam up completely or just have verbal diarrhea. And it was the latter. In fact, so much so that this podcast was even discussed.
Right.
The fact that I podcast with my son. Yes. So there we go. But that's about it for me. Bought a couple of pairs of shorts, which means that the wintry weather will now continue for another month and a half at least, due to buying shorts. We have a film to watch.
We do.
And it's a fairly lengthy one, so we should probably do that sooner rather than later. What are we watching this week?
We are watching Contact.
Now, I grabbed the case for this, and then it has only just hit me. Can you tell me who directed this?
This would appear to be... I want to make sure that it's definitely that. Yes, this is a Robert Zemeckis.
Right. I don't think that has occurred to me, and I must have subconsciously seen it when I grabbed the case. This DVD has some interesting features, including a receipt inside the case that is dated the 15th of September 2000.
Right.
Yes, so it's 24 years old. It'll be 24 years old next week. So one of my very, very first DVDs. And it came out, obviously, in the early stages of DVD-dom and has some features that were really pushing the boundaries of the features that DVDs could contain.
Interactive menus.
Yeah.
And scene access.
Yeah.
And trailers.
Yeah, and...
And production notes, which I assume is some sort of slideshow.
Yeah, but keep going.
And a trio of commentary tracks.
Yeah.
And computer animation concepts and tests, special effects designs, and more.
Yeah, you would not get that on your VHS tapes. What is more, from recollection, because I haven't watched it since watching it when I first bought it. So this could be a test, because all these rumours and comments about DVD rot and what have you, I didn't even take the disc out to check that, so Thomas will do that in a second. So we may be in for a very short movie watch today.
Hello and welcome to our review of Not Watching Contact.
That's right. My recollection is that there is also an Easter egg on this DVD.
Right.
That we shall check later on if we remember to do so, in that there is a hidden audio track, which is just the soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah, so you can watch it without any dialogue, any sound effects or what have you. It is just the score to the film.
Which I think the newest Mission Impossible film,
the
Blu-ray, also has an isolated score track.
Is that right?
It does.
Wow, there we go.
Yeah.
So they were doing it then, they're still doing it. That is only, again, from recollection from 24 years ago. So we shall find out. But the Robert Zemeckis thing, I don't know what prompted me to ask that, but I was sitting here and thinking, did I see Robert Zemeckis? And it is indeed a Robert Zemeckis
Yes,
film.
At least 3 times on the back of this case.
Right. Well, that's possibly why I subconsciously saw it as I was looking at the extra features, trying to see whether it did mention the isolated score. But, I seem to recall that it was actually an Easter egg of sorts. So you can only get to it via the audio menu on the DVD player rather than in the disc menu, I think. I could be making this up. We shall be finding that out shortly. However, I have not given Thomas the opportunity to tell our dear listener what this film is all about. And I'm not going to.
Yeah.
He shan't. It'll be a surprise. It'll be an Easter egg. If you play this podcast backwards, during the closing piece of music, which will then be the beginning music, when you play it backwards, the full description of the film will be
That's going to clash really badly with the credits.
It is, isn't it?
Because those run basically the whole way through the piece.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
Or
you could read out
yeah,
forwards.
yeah.
the plot
now,
synopsis.
when
now.
it's appropriate.
Yes, go.
The exciting adventure of the day we make contact with life beyond Earth comes to the screen with a profound sense of wonder and a dazzling visual sweep that extends to the outer reaches of space and the imagination. Jodie Foster is astronomer Ellie Arroway, a woman of science. Matthew McConaughey is religious scholar Palmer Joss, a man of faith. They're opposite ends of a spectrum, and sudden players on the world stage as the countdown to humanity's greatest journey begins.
I should point out that you got caught up in reading that in exactly the same spot that I did, because it's clumsy writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thomas is going to open the case, which should sound a little different.
It doesn't sound like that.
Okay.
That
sounds similar, but this case was before any real standardisation of DVD cases had been established. And this is half plastic, half cardboard, with a clippy thing on the edge that unlocks the cardboard front cover. So he's going to take the disc out of the case and check for any DVD rot.
The disc is also suspended in midair above the plastic.
Yes. And then he's going to put it into the DVD player. We are going to hopefully watch the film all
2 hours, 24
minutes. Yep. And then we'll come back and we shall talk about it. So we shall catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B, which, given that this is in space, may be difficult to find.
That's right, because there is no up, there is no down, there is no side to side. But the enemy's gate is down.
Yes.
Yes, you mongrel. So what did you think?
It's interesting, I think, how often science fiction dramas are secretly just political dramas.
Yes, it is a long tradition of science fiction to be a mirror to either current world events or making suggestions of a political nature to further a position or what have you. But how do you see that happening in this one?
Well, the entire through line is one of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Getting in the way of the one person who seems to know what's actually going on.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not saying this is a bad thing.
No.
This is just, you asked me what I thought. And my thought is, hey, this is actually a political drama.
Right, okay.
There's bits of science fiction throughout.
Yes.
But
somewhat, yes.
But the majority of the film is really to do with the politics of the thing.
Okay, yeah. I don't see that quite as strongly. Well, you look at, say, the two big meteorite films, Deep Impact and Armageddon, and one could argue that same cause of the typical bumbling politicians do cause delays that shouldn't have happened and getting in the way and still making it about them.
Yeah.
Which very definitely happened in this. And I guess you could roll into that, as far as this film was concerned, the misogyny of it all as well. Yeah.
And it has, those drippings of American superiority. It's poking at American superiority, to be clear.
Yeah.
And it's also poking at how drenched American politics, for all the Constitution's wishes about, freedom of religion, how drenched American politics is in religion.
Yes.
And specifically Christianity.
There is extreme contradictions in terms that I do find quite perplexing in that regard and in various other regards. And we're sidetracking here, but the whole one particular party is particularly pro-minimal government, and yet also appears to be the ones who are creating lots of laws that are restrictive in nature. So that seems to be a contradiction in terms. We could lose audience here, but I was having that thought today for various reasons, just keeping in mind that a certain debate happened in the US today. So, yeah.
No, I enjoyed the film. It was good.
Yeah.
I think that most of the effects largely hold up.
It's a tricky one because it is certainly on that cusp of things. I mean, it's always an evolution, but there were a whole heap of things happening in the digital domain that this was very much on the cusp of. That sequence right at the beginning with the zooming out from Earth past the planets, that at that stage in 1997 was the longest computer animated scene in a live action film up to that point. Weta.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson's Weta. Of all things, which did surprise me, was the team that did the travel through the wormhole. I was expecting model work and what have you, because there was certainly plenty of crossover with model work and digital effects. So there is a lot that does definitely hold up, but also there were scenes where the room had a type of that doesn't that doesn't hold up. I certainly remember being quite amazed at the time, and one of those was the really large ship, which, watching it this time, didn't entirely work for me. But up until that point, doing water was very difficult. And I was thinking, how on earth did they do that? And there is actually in the extras, they did use a large ship, like a cargo ship or something like that. So the scale of the water was right. It was shot that and then composited over the hull of the vessel that was in the film. So that's how they pulled that off. These days they would just animate everything. They've mastered water now. But I remember watching that first time round and thinking, my goodness, that water looks good. And the reason being, it was to scale. Yeah. The top half of the ship wasn't. But
And 3 years prior, Robert Zemeckis had done Forrest Gump, which involved a lot of putting newly shot material over archival footage.
Yeah.
And this was putting archival footage over the top of newly shot stuff. And in both cases, it has been a while since I've seen Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Close enough that I can recall that the edges are there.
Yeah. And that certainly bounced on me as well, as far as, Forrest Gump, Robert Zemeckis, Alan Silvestri. There was a team that was much like Tim Burton and
Danny Elfman.
Thank you. So there was that definite Robert Zemeckis, Forrest Gump vibe happening that they did actually get into trouble with in this film because they were using a live president at the time and a contemporary president, and the White House was not impressed and made it known that they were not impressed. They did get plenty of warning. I mean, this was Warner's argument. That they got plenty of warning that these bits were going to be used and what have you. And the White House waited until the film was released and then released their "We are not amused." And that was the extent of it. There was no legal proceedings there or anything.
Oh, yeah. This sure is footage that you have licensed appropriately. Huh.
And also extensive use of CNN and in-house, in-company talking heads and famous figures, Larry King.
Yes,
that they, in reflection, felt like they possibly shouldn't have been so in bed with the whole production.
It's all either CNN or completely fictional foreign broadcasters.
Yes, that's right. Speaking of foreign broadcasters and foreignness, the Australian... crikey, mate, cobber.
I'm not sure our audience will understand that the CSIRO is Australian. It's absolutely hammered.
We need them to know that that's Australia they're communicating, so we can't have kookaburras laughing in the background or didgeridoos, so you're going to have to put on the Australian crikey accent. Yes, bit cringy.
This isn't a novel concept, but we are always with Ellie throughout the film.
Yep.
Either by way of being shown footage of Ellie on television,
Yep.
or by being in the room with her.
Yeah.
Even when we're looking at another news broadcast, it's through the filter of a TV screen that Ellie is in the same room.
Yeah. And even when she is not present in a conversation... as in conversing in that conversation, she is present in the room where the conversation is. She's in the room where it happened.
Like, we don't see the conversation that leads to the selection committee being selected.
No.
Where Ellie is out in the corridor, doesn't know that there will be a selection committee, but we still feel the weight of that conversation, because very good use of a wide shot.
Yeah. And there was some interesting camera usage and to pull that off, and also to scale things. There were certainly times where we were made to feel how she was feeling, like, for example, being talked over, and even though you could hear that happening and could have been shot with a standard lens, the camera position and lens usage was such that it really felt intimidating to her.
It's a very well-made film.
Very, very well-made film. And its length is surprisingly well contained. Especially when you read the book. That's possibly one of the big disappointments that I had, is that I had read the book before, and there were certain elements of the book that I really, really liked that were completely skipped in the film. And you see why. It was a 2.5-hour film almost, and these elements that I really missed would have added a good half an hour to it. And I would certainly encourage you to get your hands on the book if you still can read, and have a read it. It is a bit of a slog, and I had no idea. I was just looking at the Wikipedia page, and I didn't realise that there were some legal wranglings going on as far as Francis Ford Coppola filed a lawsuit against Warner Brothers and Sagan, who had died the previous week. Coppola claimed that Sagan's novel was based on a story the pair had developed for a television special back in 1975, titled First Contact. I recall buying the book because it was written by Carl Sagan, and having grown up with Cosmos and being a fan, I thought, I reckon he could write a science fiction book. But it was interesting to hear that possibly he did not do it alone. That being said, I do not hold a great deal of confidence in Coppola's ability to pull off a decent science fiction film anyway. So,
interestingly, Contact, one of 7 films listed on Wikipedia under either the title Contact or The Contact. I say The Contact because also in 1997 there was a South Korean film, a romance called The Contact.
Ah, okay. So 1997, the year we made Contact, and Contact, and Contact, and The Contact, and Contact, and good.
The other films called Contact were in different years, but...
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
And I was just like, the Wikipedia article, as some Wikipedia articles do, has a parenthetical disambiguation attached to the title. I was like, why 1997 American film? And there you go. That's why.
Yeah. So I strongly encourage anyone who can get their hands on watching this to do so, but it's one of those few circumstances where I have actually read the book before watching the film and appreciate both of them for what they are, but there are certain aspects of the book that I found really chunky and good to get your teeth in, and some interesting philosophical conundrums that are not touched on or are hinted at in the film, but it goes off in various interesting directions and has you wondering. I guess one of the major things is trying to ascertain the belief system of Carl Sagan as he was writing it, and you sort of flip-flop all through reading it. It says, no, I don't believe he believes in God as he writes this. And then, oh, hang on. And then, nah. And then, oh. So it will not give away in which way that resolves itself or doesn't, question mark, ... Do you have anything else you wish to say about the film?
No.
No? It was streaming on Binge and Foxtel in Australia. Certainly renting and buying on Apple TV, Amazon, Google Play, Microsoft. You can even hire it on YouTube and fetch for all the Aussies.
Binge and Foxtel, which is to say, not available to stream.
Indeed. Well, all right. Well, if you've got nothing else to say, we'll end there. That's it. Catch you next week. Thomas has nothing else to say.
No, we have other segments.
Oh, do we?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's move on then.
The following segment has no title. Thank you.
And you've added stuff.
I have added a stuff.
A stuff. Which a stuff have I not seen yet?
The one at the bottom.
Thomas said bottom.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
We will start over on Discord with Entuosferatu.
Hello, Entuosferatu.
Who says, other original Planet of the Apes sequels. Invasion of the Planet of the Apes. Revenge of the Planet of the Apes. Cruisin', the Planet of the Apes. Super Planet of the Apes 2 Turbo, Championship Edition.
Good, I like that one.
Planet of the slowly degrading ape costumes we found in a shed.
Ew. Pwah.
This episode, Record Scratch, Laugh Track. Next episode, Morning DJ Soundboard.
No, I've got to fit in a reversed plot synopsis in the closing.
We can only afford one effect.
Oh, that's right. We can. So we can't even afford a kaboom tish right now.
Yeah, no, it didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
Entuosferatu continues. My mum had read Contact, so when the movie came out, my dad and I also read it and then went to see it. I seem to remember enjoying it. And also, it was possibly one of those long enough that it came on 2 DVDs or VHS. 2 VHS I could see happening, but this, I think, far enough along in DVD's lifetime to be fine?
Yeah, it's in that grey area. I certainly had a copy for a while of Air Force One where you had to flip the disc. They were 2-sided single layer disc, but this was on a dual layer single sided. I was actually quite surprised when I got it how much they had crammed onto it.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't see much in the way of artifacting, which can happen if you try to cram too much onto. But there's a number of audio, and we did establish there is indeed an isolated music track.
It's not an Easter egg, it's just in languages menu, plain sight.
No, it's an Easter egg in the sense of it's not mentioned on the back of any DVD discs that happen to have it, and only certain countries release DVD releases of it had it, and yeah, we certainly got it, and Region 2, I think, got it as well.
Entosfratu concludes, it does thematically end up having quite a bit in common with Interstellar, come to think of it.
He says, come to think of it, and I did try to think of it, and I've only seen that film once, and I think I need to revisit it because I don't remember much of it at all. I think the only thing that really sticks in my head is that stupid robot.
Right.
I found the design of that robot just dumb. It did not make any sense to me whatsoever. And that's it. It's spinning on the ocean, I think it was.
Right.
Running on the... Yeah.
Well, stick it on your list.
I will stick it on my list.
Over on Twitter, M.
Hi, M.
Says, the weather where I live has been very similar in terms of storms and power outages. Hurricane season stuff. 'Tis unfortunate.
Yes. There's a number of people that I follow on YouTube who live in certain parts of the US that are very prone to really ugly hurricane-y weather. I certainly feel for you. We have our bad weather here in Tassie, and when it gets bad, it is quite unpleasant. But the idea of hurricanes just, I don't. Yeah.
M continues. Didn't plug.
Yeah.
And the cats must still be out there. They do have 9 lives.
They're out there somewhere.
Which will take us up to the guess.
Aha.
The one guess that M has provided.
Oh, okay. I'm having a look at it for the first time because Thomas has kept this back from me.
No, I only just checked before we went to record this.
See, he's slacking off.
I had other things happening.
All through the week, I do a refresh of this thing that he supposedly is meant to update whenever anything comes through.
It's on a different Twitter account, and I have to... I don't get the notifications unless I go and check it properly. Why are you playing that for yourself?
Okay, so M has a guess.
M has a guess, and that guess is Cnqt Apes. CNQT-APES, which has all of the right letters.
All of the right letters, yes.
In almost exactly the right order.
Indeed. In fact, if you were to take the S off the end of Cnqt and slot it in between the Q and the T, you would have been spot on.
Unfortunately, you went with an established pattern, that M, and Colin did not.
I didn't because I can't remember from one week to the next what I've used for these rotten apey type movies.
So no arbitrary points there.
No. We shall clarify that. It was CNQSTAPE that was the correct.
Now, I have some ideas as to what this particular film's file name could be.
Look, and this might prompt a whole heap of our secretive listeners out there to come out of the woodwork and surprise us with a barrage of guesses for what the file name for this week's recording is.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Right. So if you were to guess, is that what you would have guessed?
Oh, yes. That is exactly what I would have guessed.
It took a while to actually attack the LCD screen with a pen to kill some of the dots to create a little cat emoji at the end of it. But it's Thomas now knows what the file name is. I'm sure you can have a reasonable guess at it. We encourage you to do so and contribute your guesses.
Or any other comments or film suggestions.
Yep.
In all of the usual places. And none of the unusual places.
Because Thomas never checks them. Oh no, they're the usual places, aren't they?
Yeah. Well... Well, the unusual places I have little reason to check. Speaking of apes...
Yes?
I believe we do have one final segment.
And on that note, we'll catch you next time.
No.
No? Alright. Roll on the next painful segment.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
And it's my turn.
No, it's not. Oh, no, it isn't.
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Oh, yeah. Look behind you.
It's a brick wall.
All right, Thomas.
And a shelf.
Please surprise our dear listeners by what you are proposing for us to watch as I grab my large white handkerchief.
Oh, come on, they're not that bad. I am proposing that we watch the final film in the original series of Planet of the Apes films, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Would you believe, having conquered the Planet of the Apes in Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, we still have to battle for it?
Oh, I thought it was called Carry On Planet of the Apes.
No, I'm afraid this is a very serious drama, and not a comedy.
Please, Thomas, tell our dear listeners what the monkeys are up to next week. Oh, sorry. That's Species.
Yeah.
All right, then. Please tell our dear listeners what our simian friends will be up to next week.
The ape civilization is trying to live peacefully with human beings who are atom bomb mutations. The humans plan and carry out an attack on the apes. There is also trouble within the ape community as one of their number plans a military dictatorship.
Those nasty orangutans.
I realised halfway through saying it that this is actually a very poorly written description.
We've been having a lot of those lately.
Yeah. The laconic description, the very short one-sentence description, an ape civilization trying to live peacefully with human beings.
Is that even a sentence?
It has a full stop at the end.
Oh, okay, then it must be. Does it have a crudely crafted cat emoji as well?
No.
Okay, good. Next week, Thomas and I shall be, and we encourage you all to suffer the same pain, on Guinea Pig. We are watching Battle of the Planet of the Apes.
Battle 4. For the Planet of the Apes.
But isn't this 5? This is Battle 5, the Planet of the Apes. I'm confused. Next week, we hope that you can join us. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us, in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
Do not flip the tables. There is food on them.
No, it's okay. I'm flipping the tables turnways, which means they're horizontally flipped.
Ah, okay. Good.